let's look at society's tendency to ignore the absurd. It should be an interesting subject for any philosopher, but it seems to be one of those things like love or beauty, a concept so elusive and abstract as to make it hard to define. People live their lives trying not to think about absurdity because when they do try, they find themselves thinking about what a strange world we live in, where people are forced by their very nature toward absurdity, and yet nobody wants to admit this fact. The human mind has an interesting tendency to believe that it is the center of the universe. This is very obvious in religion, where God created us and everything else for our benefit. We are special people with a destiny set out before us by this invisible force who watches over us at all times. But what happens when we realize that we are just another species on a planet full of life? What happens when we accept the fact that there might be other planets like ours? The first thing that happens is a sudden feeling of insignificance. So what if we are the pinnacle of creation? We still live on a rock in space, born out of chance and necessity, with no more divine importance than any other animal species. These facts about our lives do not simply make us more humble, they force us to recognize just how absurd our species really is. We are fundamentally different than every other animal species on Earth. We have evolved to think, and we are the only animals to use our brains for more than just survival. This alone is enough to make us absurd in itself. We also have the ability to imagine. This is what separates us from other animals. We can not only see, but we can imagine seeing. We are able to look at a scene and picture it in our heads, imagining what will happen if this or that change occurs. Our ability to imagine is a necessary part of our survival and existence, since we have decided that it is better to learn from our experiences than simply die. We use the knowledge gained by imagining in order to adapt and grow. The problem arises when we decide not only that what we are doing is absurd, but also that life itself has no meaning or purpose. In this case, we embrace the absurdity of our existence. The idea of absurdity is something that many tend to avoid, as it requires much thought. Most people are comfortable with the idea that things make sense, and therefore do not even bother trying to figure out if they really do or not. But it is my belief that the concept of absurdity, and in fact the idea of absurdism itself, is a concept worth examining. It is my belief that the world we live in, and by extension ourselves as well, are absurd. That perhaps our search for meaning and reason in life is nothing but a fool's errand. The human condition, with our endless search for meaning in life, and our inability to find any such meaning, is indeed absurd.